Hey, guys, Toby Math is here, and today, we're gonna go over 8 money habits that are keeping you poor. What I see over and over again as a tax attorney is I see the earmarks of folks that are successful, and then I compare and contrast it to people that aren't. And what we can come down to is that there are definitely some things that the wealthy do that the poor don't. And it's actually keeping them down. It's keeping them poor. So let's dive into it. Number 1. I'm gonna say the poor fail to direct their money almost more than anything else. They're reactionary. And what I want you to do, change your thinking of this is you just gotta put this up here. Your money is little soldiers. You gotta put them on the warpath and say where they are gonna go. The number one thing I see over and over again is people do not have a methodology of where their funds go. They're used to, I make money, I pay my bills, and I spend whatever's left. And if I run out of money, then I use a credit card. By the way, credit cards, over $1 trillion worth of credit card right now in the United States. People are gonna run out of money eventually. It's gonna cause inflation, and inflation is gonna jam up and make everything more expensive. It's gonna continue to happen, and the rich are going to benefit cause they have the assets. So if you want to avoid this, direct your money. I'm gonna give you a simple rule. I teach a whole bunch of videos on this, but I'm just gonna call the 70-30 rule. Remember this, and you will no longer fail to direct your money. Live off of 70%. The other 30%. What are we doing? We're taking 10% of your take home. We're gonna give it away. And now, you immediately say there's no way I could give it away. Okay, give your time away. But we're gonna take 10% off the top no matter what, and we're gonna invest it. Period. We're gonna put it in investments and understand. I'm gonna go over that topic here in a second. We're not talking about savings. We're talking about investing. We're gonna make money on our money. Period. You're gonna do this. First, pay it like a bill. Put it into an investment account. Just put it on autopilot. But 10% going away. 10% gonna pay down your debt. We're gonna talk about the difference between debt and leverage here in a minute. But you're gonna pay down your debt, and if you're not gonna give away the 10, then allocate that 10% to your investment. So you're gonna take 20% off the top, if you're not a giver. If you are a giver, then give 10% away. Makes it really, really simple. Why do I say that? Because I do. Tens of thousands of tax returns that our firm made individually, but our firm does. And I look at these returns, and I see the wealthy people give. Do they give because they're wealthy? No, they're always givers. They have a methodology. They make sure it's part of their ethos. I don't know how it works, but it works. And I'm not gonna get religious on you or anything like that. I'm just gonna say that's what they do. They get success over and over and over again. Overwhelmingly, they get successful. You should do that too, but we direct our money. We're gonna learn to live off of 70%, and you're gonna pay your investment account. First, number 1, pay your investment account. I'll tell you what to do with it here in a second, but you're gonna pay it like it's your cell bill, like you wouldn't let your cell phone be taken away, right? A lot of you guys attach that thing 24/7, pay it like it's a cell phone bill. Here's my 10, it's going into my investment account. Here's my 10%, I'm paying down debt. Here's my other 10. I'm giving it away. If you can't give it away, give your time away. Take that 10, put it in that investment account, and good things are gonna happen. Number 2, they have no emergency fund. Over and over again, we see a life event, they lose a job, they get a car that breaks down, they have something that goes on, a health issue, and they have no. Do number 1, it'll take care of. Number 2, do the directing it into the investment account, and you're gonna have the money put aside. But if not, over and over again, we see that this guy catches people off guard all the time. I would say 6 months. People are gonna say different things. You're gonna say, how could I have 6 months aside? Start investing. Start putting 20% aside. You'll have 6 months saved up before you know it. It'll happen very, very quickly, right? If you just pay it like a bill. In 03. They do not understand the difference between saving versus investing. Savings. Some people say, hey, I got money in my checking account and I save money. Don't do that. Your money is literally being devalued. It's ice out in the sun. Every day your cash is losing value. You do not want to have it sitting in a checking account maybe a month or two. Realistically, what you really want to have is a high-yield savings account. Or if you're saving your money, and we want it to be an investment account, the longer you leave your money in investing account, the better off you're going to do. And the reason is this: investments inherently have risk. So if I'm putting something in the SPY that year, that first year I could have a variance. It's gone down as much as 38%. Next year it's gone up like 50%, right? We have this huge variance. The longer you hold it, the closer you are to where there's zero likelihood of loss. In fact, 15 years, the magic number right now. If you start investing and you build up your account over 15 years, then your chances of having loss over that time goes down to virtually zero. What we want is to be hitting the average, and the average investment account will generate. Let's say we just do the SPY, which is the 500 largest companies. We just put it into SPY or VU, one of those. It's a little over 10% average annual growth, and if you understand how compounding works, it'll make a huge difference in your investing savings. You go to savings. The average is about 0.5%. The banks love to rip you off. If you go to a high-yield savings, you might get 4.5 or 5% on the high end. Investing is gonna yield you it's more than a twice as much return. Sometimes it's tenfold return. Then savings. Don't sit and keep your money in a savings account. If you learn to invest, you'll learn that there's also some tax advantages depending on the type of account. Maybe I put it in Roth, and I'll never have to pay tax in any of that growth again. Maybe I put it in SHA. I get a tax deduction for putting it in there, but I have to use it for health. Maybe I'm to putting in an IRA, where I get a tax deduction for 1K get a tax deduction. There's other things, but at the end of the day, I want it to be invested, not just sitting there in a savings. That's a big one that I see over and over again, keeping you poor. If you're just parking that money in a checking account or your traditional savings, your money is literally being devalued by inflation, in some cases, double digits. And they gave you a 0.5 point, right? It's like you're just sitting there going, yeah, I got negative this much money out of my account. It's melting. Don't do it. Think of your great-great-grandpa and how he had $25,000 under his mattress. And I could have bought a house with that. Not anymore. You can't even. It's not even a down payment, right? It's been devalued. Don't let your money get devalued. Don't stick it in a checking or traditional savings. You got to be doing at least high-yield money market fund, or better yet, invested in an ETF like the SPY or V00. So that's a big one. Number 4. Big thing that people do keeps them poor is they wait. They use what's called someday island. Someday gonna do X. Someday gonna open up a brokerage gun. Someday I'll start savings. I'm gonna wait until I get a raise. Or again, they're just really great at procrastination. Don't do that. Do it now. Do it now. Start now. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna set up maybe a high-yield savings account, and I'm gonna immediately push 20% of whatever comes into my account straight over there. Period. End of story. It's going over there, and then once that gets up and builds up a 1 or 2 months of savings, then I'm gonna open up my brokerage account. Maybe I'll open up my brokerage account right now, and I'm gonna start putting money in it on a weekly basis. Just pay it like a bill. $50, $25, whatever it is. Start doing it now. As in, like, right now, even while you're listening to this. Go open up your Robinhood, or Fidelity, or Schwab. They're free. Just get one right. They just don't wait. Number 5. They do not understand the difference between debt and leverage, and they use fan debt. They use debt, and this is bad. What is debt? Debt is something that we borrow against. Something that's a depreciating assets, not gonna have value. If I use a credit card to buy clothes, that's debt. If I use a loan to buy a rental property, That's leverage. The rental property is going to pay for the interest that I'm being charged. So the asset is gonna pay it, not me. So a debt is generally paid by my labor. Don't like that. Leverage is something that the asset that is being used to, that I'm using it to acquire. Like, if I am buying, could be doing notes. Like, I know a company that teaches this, you could borrow against. Like, you maybe have a HELOC on your house, or maybe you have a low interest in a credit card. Hey, I got 0 interest for 12 months. They would say, take that money and invest it in something like Prosper, where you're doing short-term notes, and you're getting an interest rate, and then pay off that aggressively so that at the end of the day, you've paid off the loan, but you now have this great money-producing asset that is continuing to perpetuate. They actually teach this. This is kind of like, to me, I'm 8. I'm all for anything that gets you away from debt. And if you're gonna use whatever loans you have, I'm not a big loan person. I'm not a big leverage fan. Frankly, 'cause I've never seen a house get foreclosed on that didn't have a loan. But I still can understand that concept. And what you're gonna want to avoid entirely is debt. When I borrow to buy something that doesn't have value. If I borrow money to pay for groceries, not a good idea. Borrow money to buy a car's depreciating asset, unless I'm using it for Toro or something else. Chances are I am using debt. I'm not using leverage. I use leverage on things like assets that are gonna produce income, and then I allow the income to pay off the leverage. I'm okay with that. But again, the poor almost never understand the difference, and they're always going after that debt. No 6. The poor don't understand compounding. There's an old adage, he who understands compounding makes compound interest. He who doesn't, pays it. Credit cards compound against you. In other words, you could be paying a minimum payment for 30, 40 years. Never pay off that credit card. If you're not careful, that money is just gonna continue to escalate. There's something called the Rule 72, which is you take whatever the interest rate you're being charged, divide it into 72, and that's how long it's gonna take you to double your money, or it'll double against you. Right now, interest rates are over 20% on average for credit cards. That means that your balance, if you're not paying it down, if you're not aggressively paying that puppy off, it's gonna compound on you. And it's gonna compound. What is that gonna be about? Every 3.5 years, that amount will double. So if you have a $50,000 credit card, it's gonna be $100,000 in 3 or 4 years. You need to aggressively attack compounding to reduce it against you. When you have compound interest against you, but on the same token, you want it to be used onto your advantage. So when I say invest, that's because compounding works in your advantage. If we are investing in things, and we're continued to reinvest, our dividends and we're continued to allow the stock to compound over time, you're gonna get, in theory, that historical rates. Let's say it's 10, little over 10%. The SPY has been returning, which is DTF again, the 500 biggest companies. Let's just say that's all you did. You should see your account double every 5 or 5. It should be every 7 years. About every 7 years. So it's a little over 10. So we'll just call it 7. So if I put $10,000 into SPY in 7 years, it should be 20,000, then I'll be 40,000 7 years after that. Then I'll be 80,000 7 years after that. So if I just wait 21 years, I'm just putting money in there. I'm putting money. You're gonna see it compound and compound. The wealthy understand compounding. The poor get decimated by it. We don't want to get decimated with debt that compounds against us, or you're gonna be one of those stories where somebody 50 years old, they still have more student debt than what they borrowed, and credit card debt coming out their years, 'cause they never figured out that it was compounding against them. And they're like, oh, God, you mean, and making these minimum payments and the debt's growing. Yes, they understand that. Number 7, they overspend. Spend more than you make. I get it, you're not budgeting, and so at the end of the day, we call it the losing loop. You are spending more than you're bringing in, So you have to start borrowing, and you're using debt that's compounding against you as a result, because you are not living within your means. I'm gonna tell you to live off of that 70, then you're safe. And I'm talking about 70 Haycom. Some of you guys are like, 70%. I make $100,000 a year. So 70,000, no, after tax, it's what you take home. So if you're taking home a paycheck of $8,000 a month that goes into your account, you're gonna live off of 70% of that. So you're just gonna multiply it by 7, right? Or if you're making 5,000, you're gonna live off of 3,500, right? That's what you're gonna budget. Do not overspend your what? When you start doing this, you start directing your money, and you immediately start paying things like their bill. What happens is the frivolous spending goes away, cause you're not gonna be looking at your account going, oh, I still have money left, therefore I should be spending it. It's too easy. When I direct my money into an investment account, a life hack, by the way, put it on auto invest and lose your password for about 20 years. Right, you're just gonna see a huge chunk of money. Joking about that, but I just kind of serious, right? Is you don't want to be looking at that. You don't want to think it's accessible to you, right? You want to be looking at that. That is sacred money that is put aside in my investment account. I'm not gonna touch it. That is for the future. If we just have money sitting in account, invariably, you're gonna look at it and say, I didn't realize how much money I have. I got extra money, and then you spend it and you overspend, and you find yourself behind the 8 ball when it comes time. You're like, oh, Lord. Now all of a sudden, I don't have the funds necessary to live. And I'm borrowing. I'm doing cash advances on credit cards and nonsense like that. And that the compounding will absolutely devastate you, and then you find yourself living in that golden cage again. You've overspent. You have nice stuff. You have a cool phone, you got a nice, semi-new car. That is, the loan on it is greater than the value of the vehicle, right? You're just sitting there going, oh, my gosh, how do I get so far behind the 8 ball? That's how you do it. So you gotta make sure that you are budgeting, and you're gonna direct your money, and you're gonna make sure that you're living off of less than what you bring in. And the last thing, number 8, is they do not understand taxes. Hopefully, you can see that they do not understand taxes, so you can see that. There we go. Sorry, wrote underneath there, they do not understand taxes. And I would say that once you understand that there are tax incentives, accounts, SHAs, IRAs, Roth, IRA, 401k. If you have an employer match, you're crazy not to do it. You're making a huge return. And by the way, that money gets locked away. And you get in your mind, you're like, I can't get access to it. Technically, you could borrow against it. Technically, you could just take the money and pay penalties and interest. But if I am letting an employer match go on, you could be doubling your money immediately just with the employer match. And I don't understand people that don't do it. But they understand taxes to a certain extent. When you wealthy really understand taxes and spend time getting around it. What if I told you that you could invest in things that are kicking out dividends that you don't have to pay tax on? Well, if you're married, filing jointly, you make less than $90,000 a year, and you have qualified dividends. Their tax is long-term capital gains, which is 0. Right. So if you're making $60,000, $70,000 a year, you're married. You're crazy not to be investing in things that kick out dividends. The poor never understand taxes. I use this example all the time. When I was 16, I worked at McDonald's, made $4.15 an hour. And I remember working 40 hours in a week, and I'm thinking, gonna make $160. And I looked at my check, and it was like 115,000, right? There was food soda, there was withholding, there was state. There was this, there was that, there was OA, DSI, FICA, all these things being taken out of it. My Medicare. All these taxes that hit us. Boom, boom, boom. And you start to realize I'm being punished for making this type of money. Same amount of money that I could be making. Let's just say I had rents, and I was making $150,000 a week in rent, and I had a rental property. Let's say I managed to lever myself into a property that was giving me $150,000 that I didn't have to pay tax on. That's much better situation, right? The rich understand that taxes play a role. The poor don't understand taxes. You gotta get a working knowledge of how taxes affect you, so that you could do whatever necessary to minimize your tax burden, and then you'll understand that $2. I make $1 over here. I might get to keep 70 cents of it. I make $1 over here. Gets to keep the whole 100. The whole dollar. I want to. So I want that full dollar. And you start realizing taxes play a role in how much you actually make. You start learning about them taxes, your world's gonna change, right? I'm a tax attorney. I could tell you that the wealthy have a very good knowledge and a working knowledge of how taxes work, and they direct their monies to specific types of income. You could do the exact same thing if you follow these 8 things. This is what's keeping you poor. And if you challenge those, and you start to direct your money, you start to get an understanding of compounding. You get a working knowledge of how taxes work. You learn how to invest. And you invest in specific types of things. Like, hey, where you getting capital gains, and you're getting dividends, and they're taxed at a better rate. They could be 0 for you. Then you start to get great benefits. You start learning how to avoid debt. You learn how to use leverage to your advantage instead. And you allow compounding to work in your advantage. You do those things, you're gonna be successful. So those are the 8 things that are keeping you poor. Yes, you could do something about it. If you know anybody that's doing these, share this video with them. And by the way, what's the one piece of advice you would give somebody who is suffering with any of these? Put it in the comments below, and if you'd like to share this, I appreciate it. Share it with somebody who could benefit. Like and subscribe, guys.